So I just want to talk a little bit about intuition and nutrition together, and how we can use our intuition to support us as we're kind of navigating this time. And I guess the first thing to say is, as we've discussed previously, at perimenopause, with all the changes in our body, we're going to be shown where things are out of balance, and we do live in quite an artificial, out of balance world. And it might be that our bodies are needing extra support at this time, and will be shown, and we might need to take some steps to kind of re-find balance again. And often that might be seeking support of someone who understands the body in ways that we could do with extra support with. Like for example, often at perimenopause, because of the link with our microbiome and also our reproductive hormones, and also the changes that we experience around stress and sleep, it's all interconnected. So we might find if our gut has been out of balance, then we might find that we're noticing this at this time for us to be able to do something about it. And if we're going to do something like work with an elimination diet and really kind of restore our gut health, it might be that we need someone who knows how to support us through this. And it might be that we need to take some things like time restricted eating, or all the many different tools that there are to support us in bringing about balance. But I guess the important bit of this is to remember that things are tools, and they're not. We're working with those tools, and using them in a way that's right for us. One person needing to do this, another person might not need to do it in the same way. So it's all individual. So that's why it's hard sometimes if we see a post on Instagram that says you've got to do this at perimenopause, or this is the answer at perimenopause. It's not. It's about perimenopause is often about our body communicating to us, what it needs, and it's certainly not the same for everyone, as we've discovered, in regards to the stress, the adrenal glands, and the liver, how our body is perhaps speaking to us at this time and telling us what it needs. So one of our biggest tools is to kind of come back to ourselves and assess what it is that we need, and also be able to go and seek support should we need it. But also that is a minefield in itself. How do we find the right support? How do we know what's right for us? How do we know the person who feels right for us? And again, that's just about having this practice of learning to come back to ourselves, learning to listen to our bodies, and so we can really benefit from any support that is around. And I always find that one of the things that helps me to kind of work with things outside of myself while still maintain my kind of, my sovereignty, integrity, or whatever, is just like a prac- I like to find a practitioner who can see mind, body, and soul all together, because that's what helps me. But if I can't, and like say if my body's really out of balance and I need someone who really understands the body, I just try and remember that this is working with the body and this is what my body's needing at the moment. But I try to also myself look at the emotions and the spiritual aspect of what's going on, because that's what I found in the hospital the most. Because when somebody had something physical with the body, of course, more than likely, the energetics and the emotions, that's all been at play for a little while before it expressed itself within the body. So we need to get the body back into balance, and that's where medicine was really helpful. But those who had the most benefit from any treatment or anything that we did would be those who were able to look at it on all the other levels as well. And simply the way I do that is just like if someone was to explain to me what they're experiencing in their body, um, I try to literally put those words in terms of their emotion and their spiritual health. And often that correlates to what's going on in their life or their patterns. So that's how we can kind of, work on all levels and keep that kind of openness, as well, because that was the thing, in the hospital and when it comes to holistic health. people don't respond in the same way, and it's all about how we approach things, and like also recognizing that sometimes we do need people did need medical support sometimes, because we do live in this world that's a little out of balance, and sometimes we do need extra support, so not dismissing things. So that said, how can we turn back to ourselves and our intuition and use this to support us? So personally, I think coming back and to your intuition is a practice. And I think that this world we live in often, it's just become so easy and natural for us to give our power away to things outside of ourselves that sometimes it's easy not even to notice how we're doing that. And with anything, if we're going to do something differently, you don't just do like one one meditation or exercise and suddenly you're back here all the time. It's kind of a practice, and it's something that we can build like a muscle. And it is simple, it is really simple, and we can do this regularly throughout the day, but it does take kind of a bit of devotion. And I guess talking as I was about seeing the bigger picture, it also is linked to how it links so much to our relationship with ourselves, how much we trust ourselves, how much we're able to kind of hold our power. And for a lot of people, I know that this is, well, certainly has, that's been a part of my journey. And for a lot of the people that I've worked with, I have seen that has been a part of their journey too. And it's also very much linked with this time of life of perimenopause, where we are being asked, I feel, to kind of step more into our power. Plus, also, we have this opportunity to connect to our intuition and our creative energy a lot more. I feel like it's beginning to bubble up inside us. So we can really think about it on all levels. And that's why, again, it's simple, but it's not easy. At this time of life, as we've discussed, we're often sort of given the opportunity to work through our patterns and things that are holding us back as well, so that we can move forward. So doing that can help with our intuition, but also just doing the simple practices to connect back to our intuition can help us in remembering our power, trusting ourselves, and all these sorts of things. So yeah, it's all interconnected. But yeah, simple practices that I use to connect back to my intuition on a daily basis. And again, these will be different for everybody. But I simply, for one, just started by allowing myself time um, and space. Because the thing is, I believe our body is speaking to us all the time. We have this strong connection to our higher self, spirit, the earth. But often the world's busy, 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 and we don't give space to listen to it. And because we're used to things being so black and white and told to us in this kind of formal, visible way, sometimes we're hearing these sounds and voices that are coming from within, but we're not recognizing them, because they're not sort of so what's the word I'm searching for? Concrete, that's the word, concrete. So sometimes it's just giving space and allowing these things to come. And often when they do, we might not recognize them at first. But I found that just I gave myself space every day. I made the space to tune in and connect and set that intention, because the intention is so important as well. Just setting the intention to connect, giving space, and then allowing the messages or the insights or the feelings to come. And for me, it helped me to write them down. So I wrote them down even if they didn't make sense. Um, and at first they didn't make sense, and I thought it was just my imagination. But I kind of devoted myself to it, I suppose, and kept going, kept going, kept going, until I kind of was able to see patterns and see how they piece together. Because it's yeah, our intuition is about not trust not needing facts and proof and things like that. But at the same time, it helped my brain to be able to see some patterns and proof to be able to trust my intuition, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about the balance of intuition and reason, using them both together. And that's the same as I was saying about the beginning. We might find someone with lots of wisdom about the body who can support us, but we also balance that with our intuition and checking what we're being told against what we feel and what our body is telling us. Because when we can find that balance, that's where the magic happens, I believe, the balance between intuition, reason, and the science and the magic. We've just got a little bit heavy-handed on the reason bit and the logic bit in this world, so that's why we're kind of retraining ourselves to come back to the intuition bit. So really, it's just, to me, it's about allowing ourselves the space and the time, and just to learning to trust in ourselves again. So that's number one, whether you can just give yourself 10 minutes every morning and just sit in silence and ask. And I believe also that we have like this great connection to guides and support that perhaps are not of this world. And all we need to do is ask to connect with them, because, you know, they have this bigger picture and can be supportive even when it comes to nutrition and things like that. Sometimes I'm getting these messages like I'm ignoring myself, and then I get clear messages. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that's what I need to do. So, and again, just asking for that support, asking for that connection, and then to be open to the signs as they come, and knowing that they might not come how you'd expect them to come. They won't come necessarily with a loud voice telling you what to do. They might come with just this quiet recognition. They might come with like signs in the world, songs, just being aware of what you notice. Like even if you're kind of ask a question and then like a word just stands out to you, what does that word mean? Is it relevant? Is it not? And then we're using our discernment, and gradually we kind of recognize that feeling of what our intuitive knowledge is telling us. And so when it comes to food, if we've developed this kind of muscle, then it's going to help us in learning what wisdom feels right and how we can be supported, and going to receive support from this new place of also maintaining what we feel is right. And definitely in the hospital, I've seen this all the time. People are coming in for treatments, and sometimes the treatments will be beneficial, but sometimes they won't feel right to people. And it's all about, the ones who are able to like take the wisdom from medicine and to say, no, that's not right, or even this is right, you know, because sometimes people would feel these judgments about having treatment or not having treatment. So anyway, that's off on a tangent, but yeah, just about being able to tune back and knowing how, and recognizing, I think it's about recognizing that quiet knowing that we've maybe been used to ignoring, like we as in collectively. And when it comes to food, other things that we can do to begin to develop this, so we can literally start by just holding something to our body and feeling the response of that food. So that can help us learn to tune into the language of our body when it's saying, I want it or I don't want it. So one simple way to do that is just to hold something in front of the body, to get yourself into like a nice calm state. Take some deep breaths and just ask your body to lean towards what feels right to it. And sometimes if you don't even try to move, but you just feel a really subtle movement like towards or against it. And so that can be a nice thing to do. Say, for example, if, say, you have been told you need something, some sort of nutrient, and you want to know which one's the best for your body, you know, you can try too and see how your body responds to it. That's not a be all and end all thing, but that's more about learning to tune back into your body as well. And We can also learn to like ask for yeses or nos from our body. Obviously, there's things like, using a pendulum was one of the ways I first started. And now but it's like, sometimes the tools help, like using like oracle cards or tarot cards can help us, because they're a visible tool that we use to tune in, and we can use them as a practice, like the cards. We can like, yeah, one other thing I did to connect to my intuition at the beginning was like using cards, just choosing a card each day, not reading the book, but just noticing what I saw in the card and writing that down and realizing that the card isn't, it was what I was seeing in the card that was my message, and that could be different every time. And so again, with the pendulum, you can ask your pendulum for a yes and a no. Just hold the pendulum. Have we got on? I've got on here. Hold the pendulum, and I can say, what's a yes? And then my pendulum is swinging forward and backwards, just without thinking too much. And then I might say, what's a no? And my pendulum starts swinging in a circle. And then I could maybe choose a food and say, is this food what I need? Here goes my cup of tea. I don't know about the heat, but is this cup of tea good for me? Yeah. Yeah. So that's a way to do a yes or no, but again, just a tool to practice. And another thing we can do is just really ask if we can go into like a really calm meditative state. Just take some nice deep breaths and put your feet upon the earth. We can just say to our body, what's a yes? And sometimes, yeah, with practice, you'll feel like sometimes a different sensation or like something really random might pop up, and like we can keep doing that, and then we might notice, well, that happened every time I asked. Well, that's my yes for now. And then when we're out and about, if we've got to make a decision, then we can just say, what's the answer? Yeah, so again, just tools to learn to tune in. And with, as we talked so much about stress already, that's something I think is valuable to talk about now, because I feel that if we're what helps us being able to tune into our intuition is to get into that really beautiful calm state, because that's when we can listen and that's when we're connected. If we're like off out of our body, disconnected from the earth, and in this state of like freeze or fight or flight, then we're not going to be able to like be calm and listen. So all the things we've done so far about stress are really relevant, and they're also really relevant obviously to nutrition, because if we're in fight or flight or freeze, our gut isn't going to be um, yeah, absorbing and doing what it's meant to do. And so therefore, even if we are eating all the right things, we're not going to be receiving the nutrients. And it can be stressful thinking about what is the right things to do. Getting If we get too caught up in what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating, that causes stress on our body. And it isn't so, yeah, then we're not going to be absorbing things in the right way either. So all these things sort of come into play. And I think it's important to remember as well that nourishment is not just about the food that we're putting into our body. Nourishment is about so much more. And I think that's why sometimes, we can get stuck in anything, like people can get stuck in looking after their body, exercise, 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 forget about the other thing. And this is, the same with everything. We can get stuck in food and we can get caught up in food. And particularly, I have met people before, when I was with cancer patients who've heard something's really good for them and they need to eat it, but like they like really hating it and like really being a chore and like causing so much stress in their body. So can we think, yeah, that's not beneficial in terms of stress, and listening to our body and trusting in our body. And we can always find, like, if we do feel that something is really beneficial for us but we don't like it, we can look at other alternatives. And yeah, so it's all about working together. Yeah, working together with body, mind, and soul. We can ask our body what it needs. We can also use the knowledge, and we can ask our mind to help us as well in terms of asking why our body might be needing that, knowing why, if it feels right, if there's other options. So bringing the thought into it as well, and the body, and the soul, what kind of brings us joy. So yeah, nourishment is on all levels of body, mind, and soul. And so if we're seeing any in isolation, then we're not going to have that sort of that wholeness and that balance. So sometimes I feel it's about expanding our awareness and also not forgetting all the nourishment that we receive from community, from the earth, from things like the sunlight and the air, from all of the elements. There's so much sort of nourishing us in the world. And it can be upsetting sometimes if we're thinking about it. I get upset with food because when I do connect to my intuition, I just like, oh, what is all this stuff? This isn't actually food that I'm looking at, and get so upset and overwhelmed by it. But I guess by remembering all the nourishment that is available and how I'm being nourished in all different forms, and choosing the beautiful food from the earth in its natural form where when I can, that really helps me. And yeah, things like sunlight, we've talked about circadian rhythm and how that can really affect our diet and our nutrition and our hormone balance. That's a wonderful form of nourishment that we can work with that's accessible to us. And again, thinking back to the elements, thinking about the sunlight, how that nourishes our food and how that nourishes us, and how the earth nourishes our food and it nourishes us, and how everything's so interconnected. Yeah, and I think in terms of our intuition as well, when we do eat when we are nourished on all levels, our intuition is stronger. So it's kind of a two-way thing. And the answer is like it's hard in this world. We know that if we just ate food in its natural form, seasonal, local, organic food in its natural form, if we like lived upon the earth, if we followed the rhythms of the earth, if we followed the rhythms in our own body, then we would be in balance. And things would go up and down. But generally, we wouldn't need to often I think a lot of the things we're needing to do is finding balance again in an unbalanced world. So it's not easy. But like I said, we can maybe, if we find things that need extra support, receiving the extra support, and then also just as much as possible going back to a natural way of living, because if it's close to nature, then it's right for our bodies. The answer is simple, but it's maybe difficult to follow what's simple in the world. And I think that's a big part of all of this. So yeah, I think after rambling on for a while, maybe can you put some of those just like simple ways to tune into your body, just to start with, tune into yourself, tune into your vision, ask for support from your guides, um, and see what happens. And if it helps you to write things down too, um, and see how you go. And then in terms of using intuition with food as well, other things we can do are just like, yeah, bring intention to our food, consciously eating. So think about now the next time you put some food into your mouth, like spend some time looking at it, touching it, and spend time slowly eating it. This is also going to be really supportive for our gut health as well. Just taking time and consciously eating, because that will make us develop more of like a communion with our food, and see it as something. Because if we see it just as like, I mean, if we see it as a fuel in a lovely way, but if we see it just as fuel, something to get us from A to B or whatever, but if we're developing a relationship with our food, I think it becomes much easier to know what feels right for us. And I often think about, and it can get upsetting to think about where foods come from. But the thing is, our food should be full of life force, and we're in this beautiful relationship with it. So if we're walking around a beautiful herb garden and we're choosing the herb that speaks to our body, and we're communicating with it, asking if it's right for us and how it can support us, if we're giving that herb love and growing it, then this love will go both ways. And then if we cut it fresh, and then it's full of life force, and that's going to nourish us. And how beautiful is that? Whereas if it's, been grown with chemicals, had a horrible life, and people who are just like, I don't know how to say it in a nice way, but yeah, it's going to the supermarket, and then it's sat there in plastic. Of course, like the life force in that food is gonna be different, but we can feel that in a negative way and get upset about it, or we can just appreciate it when we do have things that are close to nature and we are out in nature, and just yeah, letting that feeling inside grow, I find, helps me to appreciate the thing that I do have, because we can't do it perfect, but just taking that time to be conscious with our eating, um, doing the practices to keep our body in this calm safety state where when we are safe, and bringing that to how we're eating, I think can be really helpful. So that's just a little introduction, and let me know if you have any comments or questions.